Hello and welcome to the Sky Sports Golf Podcast presented by Callaway. And wow, I think we are all catching our breaths. What an unbelievable week, but what an unbelievable final day. Beamer, where do you even begin to sum up that? What an incredible fight back from you must be so proud.
I wish I was more of a linguist, because I'm pretty sure I could find some better ways of saying what we saw this week. The U.S. side came out with nothing on Friday and Saturday, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was so stressed out trying to figure out putts, and all of a sudden this morning, first 4 or 5 matches out, blue on the board, and all of a sudden red on the board. And then it got really interesting. I never expected to see this. In fact, I basically slagged them off, saying, listen, the Americans have 2 chances today, Slim and None and Slim's on a diet, right? And yet they came out and they put on one of the all-time performances. I wish I had the correct words other than my jaw is dropped on the floor at one point in time during the day going, I can't believe this is actually happening.
See, I think he's a cunning linguist.
Well, I think that you're a jerk. So I think that's going to be my perfect.
Yes. At that point, when Europe were up in, I think, the first 4 matches, maybe the first 5 matches, I was actually in the media center at the time, and they've got graphics up on the screen there, and it said USA's chances of winning the Ryder Cup 0.1%. It said at that chance.
You know, I think the best. I'm sorry to catch you up, but I think the funniest thing that I saw today was our boss, Jason Wesley, and he's going to tell Tim Barter, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this and that, and all of a sudden, I didn't hear from him for a little while. And then I get out of commentary just around 5 o'clock, and he goes, don't go anywhere. And I'm like going, yes, sir. Okay. It was on his – I mean, everybody couldn't believe what we were seeing. And again, it was the kind of momentum that I think that Europe got the first 2 days. All of a sudden, it snowballed back to the U.S.'s side, which is kind of, you kind of expect it to be a close match by the end of the week. 15-13 is a completely fun, but you didn't expect to see turn out this direction. I mean, to win 8.5 points today with a half point that was really kind of undecided. But again, I'm not reading anything into that. I'm just saying that a half point undecided. But wow, what a day! What a day for golf.
Ludwig Ober, the only European to win a match after dominating
and beating Cantlay
the first 2 days. Beating Cantlay,
Look, I mean, Europe had come into this event playing better on the whole. The 12 guys were probably, had a sharper game than maybe the American players did, and certainly through the first 2 days that was clearly evident. I thought they were going to go on, and I thought they were going to steamroller the American side. But of course, this is golf. The singles, it's the one ball. Americans much more used to being out there on their own, unsurprisingly, and of course they absolutely dominated that session, and it was a horrible afternoon for Europe and European fans.
Do you put today down to the US just coming out and just absolutely balling out and playing obscenely good golf, or to Europe just starting to get tense as that finishing line was in sight?
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. Like, US didn't have anything to lose, this and that. But I disagree with that, because I think the Americans had a lot to lose. They had the precipice of being embarrassed on home soil in record fashion, and they didn't want that. And I know that the Europeans, some of them looked tired. Everybody was tired going into today. Everybody was tired going into today. But listen, again, it does go back to the singles, where every man for themselves type of attitude here in the U.S. But listen, we finally outplayed the Europeans today and made it interesting. But listen, all the credit in the world on Friday and Saturday, how the Europeans played, how good of a team they truly are. It was great to watch as an American. And again, I said this earlier, you guys are the worst thing that's ever happened to me when it comes to the Ryder Cup, because now I'm spoiled, because I love it. I'm living and dying by everything that goes on each time they play, and it's amazing.
Yeah, Europe didn't feel under any pressure really to get over the line until midway through the afternoon. They were coming out, they were quite nicely relaxed. They probably expected, the Americans to throw the kitchen sink at them, and that's how it started. I think, and I'm not saying this happened, but I think one thing that can happen is that when you have a lead like that, and you're feeling a little bit jaded, or you're feeling tired, or your swing's just not quite there, you sort of go, well, it's okay, because we're so far ahead, one of the other guys will do it. But of course, everybody was feeling like that.
Well, you're the perfect person to have here, Colty, because you take us back to Brookline, and it's you're 10-6 going to the singles that day, and you must think, we'll somehow get over that. We only need 4.5 points.
Yeah.
At what point were you looking up at that scoreboard thinking, my God, there's a lot of red up there?
I didn't really. I don't really sort of remember looking at the board. I just remember the sort of ground swell, the noise starting to swell up through the avenues of trees over there at Brooklyn Country Club, and all of a sudden, things starting to look the unthinkable. And I think that sort of was a shock wave that went right through the whole team.
And then once that momentum gathers, suddenly it's like a runaway train.
Yeah, there's no stopping it. Absolutely.
I'm actually going to be very nice to my pal here, but I mean, he kind of was a sacrificial lamb that week because that was the first time that he actually got to tee it up in a match. And guess who he draws?
I think he was a man in the middle of an 8 tournament winning streak.
That's how I like to describe it. Yeah.
I mean, I think that if you put somebody out that hasn't played one match yet. That's a different story. I mean, but if you look at Ben Griffin today, he played with against Rasmus Højgaard, and those guys went toe-to-toe, and it was actually a hell of a match. So, again, it's a team effort, and I think that's what European gets the most. It's a team effort, and I don't know how the America can ever really understand. I shouldn't say understand that, but get into that vibe. And the funny thing is we have the best college program in the world, and these guys play for their teams and whatnot. And yet, once they turn professional, it seems to like that goes out the window a little bit. And I could be so off the mark because I've never been in a team room. I don't get a chance to kind of get up close and personal and talk to these guys about it. I just know what I see, and that's exactly what I see. Europe is way closer than the United States team.
Let's get into the matches because the draw was top-loaded. I mean, those first 4 matches, you had Cam Young, who I think is the breakout star for US golf after this Ryder Cup. Phenomenal in his home state. Up against Justin Rose. Justin Thomas, Tommy Fleetwood, 4-0 coming into today. Bryson DeChambeau against Matt Fitzpatrick. And of course, the world number 1, Scotty Scheffler, against the world number 2, Rory McIlroy. And you thought, well, surely Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood, Matt Fitzpatrick, Rory McIlroy, one of them will provide a point. For Cameron Young, Justin Thomas, both to go up that 18th all square and both win the 18th in such dramatic fashion.
Yeah,
wow.
Look, I was looking at it earlier on in the day, trying to figure out and maybe make it in my commentary, make it interesting for the viewers because this was a dominant performance. Europe were going to walk away with it, and I looked at it. And Justin Rose has had a phenomenal Ryder Cup. Let's not make no bones about that. But he'd lost his last 3 singles matches. Matt Fitzpatrick going out 3. Had not won a singles match. He'd lost 3. Ludwig Åberg had just lost his last 2 matches here. And when you start looking at things like that, you're starting to think, it could be a little bit. But no, it's fine because the guys have been playing good. But, goodness me, then Justin went 3 down and battled back superbly well to get it down to all square down at the last. And yet Cam Young, who does not have any scar tissue, steps up there and rolls that putt in the last. That started thing. Laura Davis said something about when one team start to win an 18, that team continues to win an 18, and then the very next match, Justin Thomas did the same thing to Tommy Fleetwood.
I bet even at that point, though, Cam Young and Justin Thomas probably thought, well, that's great. I've won my match. I've made the scoreline respectable here, but we still can't pull this off, really.
Yeah, but there's a lot. There's so many matches that were tied for a very long time
that can
go back and forth in any direction. Usually in the Ryder
Cup, somebody's like 5 up at some set. To be fair, Matt
it was 5 up.
But with every match was in the balance.
But we all make the mistake. We look at the colours on the board, and even when it's only 1 up, you go, see that, well, it's all right, we're in this. It's only 1 up. Do you know what I mean? It's only 1 up. And the great example there, when you get somebody that's playing as well and has played as well as Matt Fitzpatrick, who's 5 up, and manages a half at the end of the day. Again, it just shows you how brilliant this whole format is.
And the big guns of the European team, the big 3, if you like, Tommy Fleetwood, Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, all lost today. And, I mean, I had a quick chat with Rory there after the presentation, and he just gave me a big hug and he said, I had nothing today. I was exhausted. To be fair, Scotty Scheffler was as well.
Funny enough, he said the same thing to me at Hazeltine when he was going up at Patrick Reed. He burnt out so much energy in that front 9 going toe-to-toe back and forth. And, again, that's the one thing, even one of the most fittest gentlemen in the world, especially one of the fittest golfers on the planet, says that he ran out of gas. And to me, it's more mentally than it is emotional.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, yes, Scotty Scheffler had played 5 matches as well, and it is incredibly tiring and draining. But don't forget, and I don't want to make a big deal about it unless you're going to ask any questions about it, but they were fighting the crowd as well. Yeah, and the emotion of that, and worried about his wife and the stuff that she was having to deal with out in the golf course as well, because it's not a place for the faint of heart out there. And that emotion that Rich has just said, that takes an absolute ton out of you as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to follow up there with one quick story. There's a gentleman by the name of Chipper Jones, used to be first baseman for the Atlanta Braves, And he came out with a tweet today and says, listen, I played in New York probably 12 to 14 times every single year in New York against the Yankees. And he said, not once in 20 years did I bring my family to a ball game here. And he goes, listen, if they're going to be out there, they're going to hear stuff that they don't want to hear to their husbands. I'm sorry. That's
well,
just,
and to themselves, but they're going to shout it to the to the girlfriends and the wives and the partners in front of maybe their children. If the children are out there, it's I don't know how you're going to stop that, but I mean maybe I know the girls will want to go out there and support their man, but. It's not a nice environment for people that are not trained in a way to deal with it.
We'll get into the crowds in just a wee bit. Let's talk about the moment that the Ryder Cup was retained. What a man to do it, and what a reaction. Eh?
Why is it the Irish? How is it always the Irish?
How many times does that?
How is it the
Eamon
Irish?
Darcy 87, Philip Walton 95,
Paul McGinley
in 2002, G. McIlroy counting him
of course.
2012. Teddy Fenn, sorry. My God, we got a good record as Irish. And where's the Ryder Cup going next?
It's incredible going to Ireland. They might have to take a few trees back.
I'm going to remember this. I'm going to remember this up until then. If America happens to pull a rabbit out of their hat and beat you all there, I'm going to sit here at the same time going, really? And it's not. I mean, listen. I'm not going to forget these matches for a long time. Again, Sky Sports has spoiled me and devastated me, demoralized me in so many different ways because of the Ryder Cup itself. I love what I do. I love the people I work with. I love wearing the red, white, and blue this week because this is my team. But I got to say that Europeans, they're a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
I mean, just on that pot there at the end, try to put some context to it. Shane said he's a major champion, an Open champion. He's won it in the island of Ireland. And there he is standing up there, and for his 11 other teammates, the continent, his friends, his family, and all that over a putt. Yes, he dreamed about that. Yes, he said to his caddy Darren Reynolds, this is what we've been waiting for. But when he stands over that golf ball, every single bit of his body is trembling. He has very little control over it. He can hardly breathe. And somehow he managed to pull that stroke back beautifully, make sweet connection with the ball and find the right line and pace, and then cue the interesting little dance moves, which I absolutely loved.
God, I can't think of anybody who did a more interesting dance move when they won a big tournament.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, but Shane looked like a sumo wrestler. That was, I mean, no, listen, and I'm not, but he was going like all the way down. He was dancing. He was going.
That's what you're bumping him in the Dunvegan next week.
What a moment for Big Shane, and this is what he had to say. He was understandably very emotional.
I mean, I've been so lucky to experience amazing things in this game. That was the hardest couple of hours of my whole life, honestly. I just can't believe it. I can't believe that putt went in. I stood over it going, this is it. I said to Darren walking down 18, I said, I have a chance to do the coolest thing in my life here. And the Ryder Cup means everything to me, honestly. I won the Open in Ireland. It's amazing. It's a dream come true. But the Ryder Cup for me is everything. And to do that there today in the 18th green in front of everyone, it's it was so hard out there. I mean, fair play to the US lads. We knew they were going to come out fighting, but
you've battled a lot this week. It has been a hostile away crowd, which is what you expected. Luke Donald left no stone unturned. What part of his captaincy has led you to this victory?
Yeah, he's the greatest captain I think that's ever lived. He's the most amazing man in the world. Honestly, he's done the best job. Yeah, I honestly, I don't know what to say. Don't know.
One more for you. I know you're going to celebrate tonight, but when this all comes down, you said your mind will turn to 2 years' time and Adair Manor. How incredible is a home Ryder Cup going to be for you, Shane?
It'll be a little bit nicer than playing here, I know that.
And for Shane Lowry, here's a guy who just does cool things. He wins an Open Championship on Irish soil. He wins the Irish Open as an amateur. He has had holes in one at Augusta.
Players, Augusta, Pebble Beach.
Yeah. And one at Wentworth. He loves that place as well. He just keeps doing cool things, and now he is hold the putt to retain a Ryder Cup.
Hard to believe he was struggling back in what would have been 2017.
Yeah, it was.
17,
yeah, he actually just he was feeling pretty low in the game.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he wins in Abu Dhabi, and he's been on this upward trend ever since then. But I love the fact that again when he makes a putt, he talks about winning the Open is one thing, but winning the Ryder Cup is a completely different thing. I'm not too sure you're going to have any American ever say that, with the exception of possibly Keegan Bradley, the captain of the U.S. side, because he knows how much that means to him. I'm trying to figure out a way that he can take what he feels and shove it into everybody else's body, all 12 men that he plays. Like, this is what it means to me 24/7. This is what it means to wear the red, white, and blue. Again, I'm not saying that these guys don't believe in it as much as he does, but he seems, every single time you talk to Keegan Bradley, he talks about the Ryder Cup, just like Europeans talk about the Ryder Cup.
Look, we began the day by sort of talking up a potential record European victory, and because of how today panned out, we're understandably lauding the US side. We should still remember, at the end of the day, Europe won the Ryder Cup, and let's look at the reasons why. Their top 4-point scorers, Tommy Fleetwood with 4 points, Rory McIlroy and Tyrrell Hatton both with 3.5 points, John Rahm with 3. And to win, we've spoken so much about it in the build-up, to win Ryder Cups, you need your top players to perform. And I would say those are Europe's top 4 players, and they all performed.
What was number one on the U.S. side? Three points?
Cam Young with 3 points, Xander Schauffele with 3 points. But then you look at the likes of Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah.
And he redeemed himself today, but 1 point from 5. And if you look at the reasons why the US lost the Ryder Cup, I would throw Patrick Cantlay into the mix as well. Supposed to be standout player for the US, lost his last 3 matches this week. That's where Keegan Bradley was let down.
Yeah, it was. And again, part of it I think is lineups. I think that the statistician that works for the U.S. side, I think that they need to kind of take a deep, hard look into how they analyze things, because what Eduardo Molinari is doing is otherworldly, and what he does is he puts belief into the players, and he says, listen, we're already one up because we know that this match is it's bygone conclusion that this is going to be ours. So I think that when you have that feeling and that belief, you're going to succeed 24/7. I truly know that, to be fair, as a golfer. So the U.S. side has to take a look, though, because they got to figure out a way to not have the blunders the first couple days. We can talk about the key putts when they're made and this and that, but again, the camaraderie is right there. And I remember a few years ago when it was Spieth and Thomas. They're talking about that dynamic duo for a long time. Schauffele and Cantlay, they went away from that after a winning side in the first day. Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns, good pals, and yet never once did they play together. So bizarre.
Yeah, and we had this in Rome 2 years ago as well. Colty, Europe's top players performed. It happened again. Now, okay, today's slightly taking the sheen off it because Rory and Tommy and John all lost their matches. But the fact of the matter is, for the first 2 days, they performed, and that's the reason they're taking the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, it is. Bryson DeChambeau just a point and a half. He was going out there leading the American side, carrying the Star Spangled Banner, to trying to gee up the crowd, and he didn't bring the points that his captain was expecting him to, and that's his job. And unfortunately, he was outplayed most of the time.
Beamer, you looked at if you had something to say there.
No, I was just kind of thinking about Bryce. I know he's taking a lot of stick this week, but listen, to put yourself out there and to be that amped up and to go there. Listen, even in the losing process, though, he was the standout American.
Well, that was today. Today was huge.
Today was huge,
well,
and he was 5 down through 7 and come back. But even in the other matches and whatnot, I don't know how many truly horrific shots that he hit or a putt that he should have made.
The thing. He and Scotty actually played superbly well together yesterday afternoon.
They did.
Just beaten by Tommy and Justin.
That's exactly where I'm going with it. It's not like he shied away or backed down or this and that. I give massive props to Bryson because he got hammered in the media before this thing even started. Even on Monday before they really kind of made their presence here. I think that Bryson is great for golf. I think he's great for American golf. And listen, I would take him right now I would take him over to Ireland in 2 years without hesitation. I'd already say, you're on the team.
As we say, Colty, how today has panned out has maybe taken off the sheen of what has been a brilliant European performance. And let's just laud Luke Donald, because it is all down to his meticulous preparation. This isn't a plan that he thought up on Monday of this week. This has been in the pipes for over
2
year.
years. Yeah, 2 years.
And, Eduardo Molinari, his right-hand man, who I was about to say is an unsung hero. I don't think he is unsung anymore. I think people realise just how important Dodo is as well. But he has been meticulous in his preparation, dotted every I, crossed every T. He has to go down Here's a guy who played in 4 Ryder Cups, was on 4 winning teams, has now captained the Ryder Cup team twice and won both. Where does he sit in the pantheon?
Yeah,
of European Ryder Cup
absolutely.
greats?
He's an icon, an absolute icon, right up there with the very best, if not the best. Tommy Fleetwood's coming pretty hard on his tails with some of the points that he's won so far, but that was been a tremendous performance, behind the scenes from Captain Donald. Right from prepping about how the crowd's going to be, way back at the Team Cup at the beginning of the year when he had people screaming at the players and stuff like that, checking out who was going to react. The goggles that they were wearing, dealing with all that kind of thing. Right through to the diet, what they're eating in there, how they're relaxing after rounds. Getting their bodies physically fit for it. I mean, he and the vice captains leave absolutely no stone unturned, and to me that was a big difference in terms of the outcome of both his captaincy compared to Keegan Bradley.
He's so impressive, isn't he, Beamer? And so statesman-like. Every time he speaks, I hang on his every word.
Well, he is. I mean, he's very cerebral. He's obviously a smart young man or a smart man. Went to Northwestern University. Again, it seems like if somebody asks him a question and he may not know the answer to it, he goes, let me think about that. Let me get back to you in a second. He doesn't just blurt out an answer.
No.
He wants to make sure that he comes out with the right answer, and that's what he seems to do every time he's asked about anything when it comes to the Ryder Cup side. He was put to task today by the U.S. side, but the hard work had already been done going into today. He said, listen, I might have been stressed out for 12 hours, but listen, it was still, it obviously wasn't a foregone conclusion, but listen, he had pretty much put a lot of questions to bed over the first 2 days, and that only takes because he knows all the answers. He's got all the answers to every single question you ask him.
We had scenes reminiscent of Rome, Colty, during the presentation when the players started chanting 2 more years, 2 more years, and Luke Donaldson was joking. He said, I don't think my heart can take 2 more years. I don't know if he's categorically completely ruled it out, but you can be sure that the powers that be at Ryder Cup Europe are saying, please do it again in Ireland. Yeah,
look, so Nick asked me that at the end of our show there, and he has formed such an incredible bond with those 13 players, from Nikolai back there in 2023, and if they ask you to do it, how can he disappoint them? There's a very good chance that a lot of these players are going to be back in the team again. They understand his captaincy methods. He might not feel like his heart can take it, but I think he's going to have to do it.
Diane Donald might have
Listen, I think the family's the only reason why he may not do it, but I mean, listen, I'd
give Diane everything she wants.
I would. That's exactly right. I would put him captaincy for as long as he wants it.
Well, here's my next question, because has now the role of captaincy completely changed? Because it used to be kind of a ceremonial, well done for having a fantastic career, you can be Ryder Cup captain now, and you'd pitch up on the Monday of the week, and I'm sure you'd have little thoughts that you put into it, but then that was it. Well done for having a great career, you can be a Ryder Cup captain now. Here's a man, and I thought Paul McGinley was the high bar when it came to Ryder Cup. I don't think anybody could be better than Paul. Here's a guy who's taken it to a new level because he's treated it for the last 3 years as a full-time job.
Yeah. Well, this is going to sound strange, but the Ryder Cup is obviously about the players, but it's also so commercialized as well. I mean, you have to put a lot of time, effort, and money into building a team the way that you want it built and the way you want to see things happen. It doesn't happen overnight. It literally is something that has to be cared for. You have to, every little small detail that you see on a daily basis anywhere in the world, write it down, because you think, listen, that might get us, as they all say, Europeans say, it might give us a tenth of a percentage point more of a chance, and we'll take every single percentage point.
Has the role of captaincy changed?
Well, look, I mean, first of all, I always thought the captain should be the best man for the job, right. not awarded to somebody who's achieved great things in the European Tour, because potentially you could have a pretty poor captain out of that. I think he's taken full advantage of the situation that he finds himself in, where several players have gone to live. You get Westwood, Coltart, he might never have been Stenson. He stepped into Stenson's shoes. There's a little lull in terms of where we are with individuals at the minute that would be potentially standing up to him against that role, so he can take full advantage of that. But again, you fast forward 4 years or so, Justin Rose will deserve a shot. Who knows? What about Shane Lowry? What about things like that?
You can guarantee Justin Rose is thinking, I want to be playing
absolutely.
Team in Ireland 2 years time.
No, that's true. But beyond that,
exactly. But then after that, you're going to Hazeltine, where do you really want to blood a new captain on forum?
Yeah.
So my question is, if you give it to Luke Donald, or if you ask Luke Donald to do it in Ireland, does
Yes.
he then have to do it in Hazeltine as well?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely you do, because I think that whatever he learned in Rome, absolutely already built a massive foundation, a very strong foundation for what he brought here to Bethpage. And that's why the Europeans were so dominant. Everything that he learned, everything that he understood about what it took to be a good captain or a great captain in Rome, he brought it here and just built on that and became a captain for the ages. And so, yes, I believe if you're going to be a strong captain, and again, I'm going to say this also for Keegan. If I were the PGA of America, I'd give it to Keegan right now and say, listen, everything that you learned this week, you got to take it with you.
Really?
Yeah,
I know. Again, though, we have to have consistency.
Yeah.
You have to.
Okay.
You have to. Whatever you learn on site. You know, Keegan might be the only reason because he's still playing. That might be a hard thing. But if you're going to go forward on the U.S. side, you got to do a 2-year, a two-time stint.
Hold that thought a second, Colty. Let's just hear from Luke Donald first. This is what he had to say after this incredibly stressful day.
You've just joined Tony Jacklin as the only European Ryder Cup captain to win home and away. What does this victory mean to you? What does it mean to your team?
It's going to be the most stressful 12 hours of my life. Shout out to the Americans and Keegan and his captaincy. We knew they'd be tough. I didn't think they'd be this tough. On Sunday, they fought so hard, and all the respect to them. But this means a lot, obviously, to me and the team. We came here knowing that the task was going to be very difficult. Couldn't be more proud of these guys, what they've gone through, how they come together, how they're playing for history, how they're playing for the people who came before them, and now they'll be taught for generations to come now as someone that will go down in history, and couldn't be more proud.
Europe lost the last Ryder Cup over here, 19-9, a record margin. You said you adopted a completely new style for this. What were the changes that you made this possible?
Well, having a repeat captain for one. You know, I was just fortunate to have a team that knew me and trusted me, but you know, that's all I've ever tried to do, is just be the best prepared I can be. So many different things I went into this, dealing with the environment, you know, the communication with the players, but again, just so happy for them.
You know your team are going to sing 2 more years, 2 more years. What do you think?
I think I want to enjoy tonight first. Thank you.
On to Keegan then. And Beamer saying there before we heard from Luke Donald that he should have another pop in Ireland in 2 years' time. I'm not so sure, Colty. I don't know what you think about it. Was Keegan bailed out today by his players?
Yeah.
Would Keegan Bradley have gone down as one of the worst captains in?
Well,
Ryder Cup
he was
history had it not been for
absolutely.
today?
He was facing that. Look, if you want to break it down, you know, the 12 singles are his least influential position regarding a captain. All he had to do was the order. He didn't have to make any partnerships. When he had to make partnerships, when he had to set people out, he got the wrong partnerships. He got the team roster in the wrong order. He sat the wrong people out. So I don't agree with that. I think ultimately he was bailed out by his 12 players today, and I think they'll probably look for somebody else.
But you've been impressed by Keegan as a captain, have you, Beamer?
You know, here's what I'm going to say about it, and I'm not going to say no, I haven't been, because I don't know what it takes to. I don't know what goes behind the curtain and all that. What I do know is that Keegan could have been one of the 12 players.
Correct.
He could have been one of the 12
and
players.
Perhaps should have been 2 years ago as well.
When you were out there trying to play at a high level still, and you're the captain, there are things that are going to be missed.
That's actually a very good point. I think to defend him on that regard, he was still playing. He was still a contender for the team. So arguably he wasn't able to prepare or do things, although he would have handed that to his vice captains. But there's an element to say there that he couldn't dedicate himself as much to his role that Luke Donald could, because he still believed he had a chance to make the team.
Absolutely, and you know, we were already doing the post-mortem last night before the singles have been played today. Today's singles have changed everything, the way we're going to look at this Ryder Cup.
Of course.
But when we were sort of already sharpening the knives for Keegan last night, and I was saying it is like watching two completely different approaches. Luke Donald, who has had this prepared months, years in advance, down to a T, and to me, a captain who is making things up on the hoof in terms of let's stick him with him, and it just looked like two completely contrasting ways of approaching the Ryder Cup week. Am I being unfair on Keegan?
Well, I don't think necessarily from the organic point of view. I mean, he was doing what his stats guy were telling him to do. That information was clearly wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and Eduardo Molinari said to me his jaw hit the floor when he saw some of those pairings.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you have to rely on what. I mean, a lot of these guys are looking at the numbers. What do the numbers tell you? Why is this pairing so strong? Why are they so good? And he was asked pointed, out of 132 different scenarios, this was the 132nd strongest team you could ever come up with. Yeah. Why twice? I have a plan. Wow, I that one was very mind-boggling.
And then he was worried. He was worried as if he was looking like he was panicking if he changed it.
Well, you have to have a plan B because plan A certainly wasn't working. But I mean, when Europe saw that list, they had momentum before they'd even had a shot.
And Eduardo Molinari apparently saw Russell Henley tee off the first on day one, playing alongside Scotty Scheffler. Said,
hook left.
We've won that match.
Yeah.
He says there's no way we can possibly lose that match with Henley on the odds and Scheffler in the even.
Well, everybody that we were talking to, the strat guys that we use, the other people that are available to us, Scheffler was always going to hit off the odds. So how on earth did Henley hit off the odds?
Don't know. Baffling. I'll tell you another thing that disappointed me with Keegan Bradley, and this leads us on to our final point. He was asked last night about the crowds. And I do not know why he doesn't have a PR advisor saying, listen, when you go into that press conference room, you're going to be asked about the crowds. Before a question is even asked, you need to say, I just have something to say. Today was absolutely disgusting. This is not what the Ryder Cup is about. Anybody who is yelling foul-mouthed abuse at those players should be ashamed of themselves. Now, why isn't a PR advisor saying that? Instead, he has to wait for the question. And when he's asked the question, he says, it's just passionate. They're just passionate. I mean, I wasn't in Rome 2 years ago, but I heard it was violent. What a strange thing to do.
Would he say that?
Yeah, he did. And I was in Rome 2 years ago. It certainly wasn't violent.
Well, it certainly wasn't violent.
That was as a captain.
Yes, that is very surprising to use rhetoric like that when you're in that situation. You should be aware that those kind of questions are going to be directed your way, and you should have a plan as to how to deal with that. But it looks like he didn't have too many plans laid out for him the whole week.
But you have a responsibility,
exactly,
as a captain, to condemn that immediately, Beamer, don't you?
Absolutely. And again, the PGA of America, they knew what they were going to get themselves into by coming to this venue. Why, before the fact, didn't you put some security? Plainclothes security walking amongst the fans out there, trying to do your best to calm some of them down. Not all of them, because listen, you can't control all of it. It is gonna happen no matter what. Because let's face it, people are idiots.
And listen, I need to stress,
especially
the
after
overwhelming
alcohol.
Majority of the New Yorkers and the US fans have been fantastic.
Of course.
But it is a very, very vocal minority who've spoiled it for everybody.
Of course.
And I walked with Shane and Rory yesterday. It was disgusting. I can't repeat in this podcast what I heard.
But why didn't the PGA of America recognize that and have people out in the crowds? They did it at Hazeltine on either Saturday or Sunday. I think Saturday afternoon it got a little bit chirpy there. And one of my close friends, Patrick Hunt, who was the Ryder Cup chair there, he goes, we're putting an abundance of people out in the crowds, and as soon as we hear somebody, they are gone. First word out of their mouth that's sideways and abusive, gone. No questions asked.
Yeah, that needs to be done. I mean, they've got to look at the protocols to deal with that, and they need to show people getting thrown out so that people will think twice before they say things. Listen, every village has one, and there's quite a few villages around about here.
And what was with the ducks? Who thought that it was a great idea to buy a drink and they'll give you a squeaky duck?
Oh, I wasn't aware of the squeaky ducks. That's
news
to me.
Yeah, we were talking on the 10th hole. That's why Rory backed away. He pointed at a guy over there.
The squeaky ducks.
Squeaky ducks.
There were things a lot far worse than
apparently,
squeaky ducks out there.
Buy a cocktail and get a squeaky duck.
Right. I felt hugely sorry yesterday afternoon for Wendy Lowry and Erica McIlroy, because that is, to be subjected to that is pretty vile.
Well, look, it's a very difficult situation that they find themselves in. They want to go and support their partner. They want to go and support their man.
Sure.
It was always going to be a jungle out there, an incredibly hostile, febrile atmosphere out there. And by going out to support their man, they were putting themselves in that firing line. There was arguably places that they could have gone to watch. I mean, it's nice that they're there, right? But I always said to my wife when she was out, there's nothing we can do. You can't run onto the fairway and give me a hug. At the 18th, we can have a hug at the 18th. I want to fall into your arms at 18. But we're out there, they're just going to get on with the job. But there's really not much they can do.
Was that worse than Brookline 99 this week? Because Brookline 99 is seen as the.
Well, I was in the box. I wasn't hearing a lot of this stuff coming through. The stuff I was hearing coming through was very, very similar. But I believe it. It potentially was. I believe it potentially was worse than what we encountered in '99. But they knew it was going to happen, and I was talking to Paul McGinley about it. I wondered whether protocols were going to be put in place to protect the wives and girlfriends from those kind of situations, and if you were going to walk out there into that environment, there was very little anybody was going to be able to do to avoid that.
Yeah. Final word, Beamer, on the crowds this week. Did they cross the line?
Again, as you said, there's a couple of those bad apples that did cross the line, but listen, that as a whole, that's not what I want to see. In total, I don't want to see this at any golf tournament, and you won't see it ever at Augusta National. You rarely will see it at any major championship.
One word at Augusta National, and you're out of there.
Well, that's exactly, and not that this needs to be anything like Augusta, but listen, you got to respect the game and respect your fellow human beings.
Do you want to I made this point in last night's podcast as well, so apologies for repeating myself for those that are listening to this one as well. But I walked a few holes yesterday with Nikolai Højgaard, and he was saying, as a player, it's impossible to feed off negative energy. They're hurting their own side here, because the US players, they want positive, they want encouragement for them. They don't want abuse hurled at their opponents. And when you're playing in that toxic, negative environment, it's so difficult as a player to G yourself up.
Well, I think there was actually situations out there, and I think that's very, very true, Jamie. I think there were situations out there when they thought they were doing the Europeans damage. They were actually encouraging the Europeans to stick it to them. And that's what they did at the end of the day.
Well, you can be clever about what you say. I'm telling a funny story about my college basketball team. I won't tell exactly what happened, but every time the opponent would make a shot, and they say nice shot, and then something out after that. Yeah. But it was funny. It wasn't anything derogatory. But here's the thing, though. What the fans could have done more than anything else, Europeans hit a nice shot, or they hit it in their close, they make a long putt, say nothing. Yeah. Crickets. Don't clap. Don't say anything. Just sit there.
And the European fans, I will just say, and I don't want to sound sanctimonious and on my high horse here, but there's a bit of wit and intelligence behind it. Like
there is, absolutely.
They were the range yesterday saying, "Have you ever seen Scotty win a point? Have you ever seen Scotty?"
That's funny. That's funny.
Like
that's the beauty of it.
Hats off for your bank account to Patrick Cantlay. It's not just you, Patrick.
That's exactly right. And we don't have that. I mean, listen, we have USA, and we believe.
Ring in my ear.
Just thinking that myself.
We will win. We believe we will win. Yeah. Again, we don't have quite the sporting culture as you guys do. We have fans. We have rowdy fans. We have arrogant fans. We have blump hat fans. Yeah. But listen, we don't have the witty, clever stuff that you guys have, which
we will see hopefully in abundance in Limerick in 2 years' time. Gents, we're all desperate to go and get a beer, a well-deserved beer. So let's just finish by saying, how will the 45th Ryder Cup be remembered, Colty?
It'll be remembered for an incredibly tense, tight, nerve-jangling afternoon, but it'll also be remembered as another heroic performance from a European team. And now 47 men that have felt the taste of victory on US soil.
Yeah, remarkable, Beamer.
I echo the same sentiment. I also think it's a roller coaster of emotion. The highest of the highs for the Europeans and lowest of lowest for Americans, and all of a sudden it switches in 24 hours, and all of a sudden we come out and do what we did. To me, I will not forget this one for quite some time.
And have the US this afternoon given themselves belief that in a dare manner in 2 years' time they can become the first team since '93?
There's a lot of things that we need to sort out before we can believe that.
Yeah, and by contrast, Europe are in such a strong place, aren't they? Because in Hatton and Rahm And in McIlroy and Fleetwood, you've got a Seve and Ollie for the next 5 Ryder Cups.
Yeah, absolutely do. You get built-in partnerships at making the captain's job an awful lot easier.
Look, it's been a remarkable week. It's been a dramatic final day. I think we'll probably have to let the dust settle and do another podcast later in the week to fully digest this Ryder Cup. But thank you for listening to our podcast all week. Thank you to Beamer and thank you to Colty for joining me. They're exhausted. They just want to go and get a drink. So do I as well. That's what we're going to do now.
Oh,
but congratulations.
Here, have a drink.
Thank you. Yeah, I will do. Thank you very much. This is some good old American bourbon.
American bourbon, yeah.
Fantastic. Cheers. Thanks for joining us. Thank you to Callaway for sponsoring the podcast. We will do one later this week to fully digest this Ryder Cup. But what a week it's been. What a final day. Congratulations to Luke Donald and his 12 heroes. That's all from us at Bethpage Black.